So, continuing our discussion on the various literary terms. So, today we are going to take up another five or six literary terms which are very important as far as literature and understanding of literature is concerned. Okay. So, the first term is imagery. Imagery, if you go to the origins or the history of this term, then imagery, it comes as old or as ancient as Homer or Virgil. Okay, the classical poets. In the latest 20th century, this moment was that Imagist moment was connected with Ezra Pound and Hilda Doolittle, nicknamed as HD, uh, which you might have studied during your this uh, history of English literature course. We talked about imagism or imagist movement, which was heralded by Ezra Pound and Hilda Doolittle. Okay, in which these writers, they emphasized using precise and concrete images. So, what is the meaning of this term? The meaning of this term is images means something, the language, because in literature we are using words. So, words or language which appeals to our senses. We have got five senses. Senses, that is the sense of seeing, the sense of hearing, touch, taste, and smell. So, anything which appeals to these five senses, so they become images in language or literature, right? For example, in Keats' poem To Autumn, there are season of mists and mellow fruitfulness is quoted a line, season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, which evokes visual and you know uh, a tactile richness. So similarly, uh, you also in your day-to-day life use such kind of language, like you may say the kitchen smelled of burnt toast and lemon soap. So that gives some kind of tinkling to your senses. Smell, uh, you comprehend that thing in your mind. Smelled of burnt toast and lemon soap. Lemon soap. So the moment I say the word lemon soap, uh, uh, some smell that is engraved in your memory or mind that comes. Okay, something like little or little soap is one which has a lemon kind of fragrance. So, uh, though these things, they have been used in the literature, especially by those poets who are more sensory in their details, like John Keats and uh, the others who are directly related with this imagist moment in the 20th century, like Ezra Pound and H.D. So next is intentional fallacy. Okay, intentional fallacy means again you have I think you have understood what is affective fallacy. Affective fallacy was something which is a falsehood in your emotions is called affective fallacy. Intentional fallacy is another term which was coined by the same people who had coined that affective fallacy, W.K. Wimsatt and Monroe Beardsley, and it was coined in 1946. So they argue that meaning should be derived from the text, not the author's personal claims or diaries, right? You should not look at the text from the viewpoint of from the standpoint of author's intentions or author's claims. Rather, text should be approached with a free mind. Okay, then only you can enjoy the richness of that particular text. But if you approach the text from the author's that authorial viewpoint or standpoint, then that becomes a kind of intentional fallacy because you have already programmed your brain to something which is already told. So, in that manner, you will miss other things which may be important. So the mistake of believing the author's intentions, you know, construing or thinking that it is the only true meaning of a text, that leads to intentional fallacy. आपने क्या किया? आपने ऑथर ने लिख दिया कि ये चीज जो थी ऐसे थी, तो आप you just approach the text from that particular viewpoint, then it becomes a kind of intentional fallacy. And a literary example, if you want to quote, a poem's imagery and tone, they are more important than the author's claim that it was just a joke. Okay. So if you just go by the claim of the author that it was just a joke, then you won't be able to enjoy the beauty, the variety, or the depth, or the originality which is there in the poem, because you have already eclipsed your mind of all those things which your creative imagination, you have shut down your creative imagination by believing what the author has said. So that is what is known as intentional fallacy. Okay, everyday example is, suppose your mom is, she is cooking something for you, and she says that the curry she has cooked is mild, it is you can eat it easily, but when you taste it, it is spicy, and so your experience counts more than your mom's words, or some chef's words. So that is what you should yourself. What is the meaning here is, instead of going by the intention of someone, by the statement or personal claim of someone, a reader should approach the text from a free or creative mindset. Then only he or she will be able to enjoy the real depth or the beauty of a particular work. And because that will give you a very lopsided, or what do you call that, constricted or very narrow viewpoint, and that's what intentional fallacy is. Both these terms, affective fallacy and intentional fallacy, they are given by these two men, Wimsett and Beardsley. Okay, next is meter. Meter is nothing new to you. Metron means measure. It comes from the Greek word metron, which means measure. And English meter, for the first time, was not only developed but used by Geoffrey Chaucer. He has used heroic couplet in his that Canterbury Tales. He also introduced that rhyme royal, the Chaucerian stanza, and also an octosyllabic couplet, which is used in his poems. So in English, it was introduced by Geoffrey Chaucer. Okay, and it continues to be used, that same thing by the Shakespeare and his contemporaries. They use iambic pentameter, which is nothing but the same meter which was used by Geoffrey Chaucer. Okay, iamb, you know what is an iamb? It is a feat which consists of an unstressed and stressed syllable. Okay, so the meaning is the rhythmic pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in verse. In poetry, when you create a rhythmic pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables, that is called meter. For example, the example quoted here is iambic pentameter. So penta means five. 5 meter means 5 feet. Which kind of feet? Iambic. Iambic is a pattern in which a unstressed syllable follows a stressed syllable follows an unstressed syllable. So it is something like unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed 5 times. Then it becomes penta meter. So 1 meter consisting of 2 feet, 2 syllables in an iamb. Similarly, you have another other kind of feet also, iambic, anapaced, then trochee, and all that you should know, and you should be knowing, right? So rhythmic pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in poetry or in verse is called meter. Example, already I have quoted, like you can take the example of Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer day? Shall I compare thee to a summer day? Right? It is written in iambic pentameter. Iamb means consisting of two syllables, unstressed and set. Shall is unstressed. I stressed. Compare, two syllables. Unstressed, pair, stressed. The, unstressed, two, stressed. Unstressed, summer, stressed. Okay, day, summer's day. So likewise, uh, this is what gives that rhythmic pattern to the poetry. Okay, everyday example is clapping along with the beat of a song. Okay, like many times you might have clapped when people sing. So that is, you are creating a kind of rhythm. Okay, that is something called meter. Then motif and theme. Motif, which was refined in 19th century folklore studies by Arne Thompson. Themes, which is something which comes from classical tradition. So motif hota kya hai? What is motif? A recurring image or phrase. You should not confuse between yourself between this theme and motif. Motif is a simple thing, a simple recurring image or phrase. Image, what is image? Suppose there is an image of a red rose which continues appearing in a novel or in a story many times. Okay, so then it becomes a motif. Or there is some other image which appears across the canvas of that particular story, novel, or any other literary work. So that becomes a kind of motif. Maybe a line. Okay. So, maybe a phrase also. So there are a lot of examples of motif. When you study this novels and all, many novels will have motifs, uh, a recurring image or a phrase. But theme is something different from motif. Theme is the main idea or central message which is developed by the motifs. These motifs recurring when something occurs over uh, a regular period of time, then it becomes the theme. Okay, so motif is something which gives you the theme. So main idea or central message which is developed by the motifs is called the theme. Okay, then example is in Macbeth. You can see the repeated motif of blood. Okay, that reinforces the theme of guilt and moral corruption. Okay, so you will find that this motif, appearing a repeated number of times, the motive of blood, that develops or reinforces the theme of guilt and moral which is there in that character. Then in everyday examples in films, you see there is recurring shots of clock. That means a clock is shown many times. That means it is a motive to develop the theme of time pressure or something which is bound to happen, inevitability. So you might have seen, a lot of motifs they reoccur. Okay, thereby reinforcing that particular theme. For example, there is a continuous motif of broken what do you call bangles and the cry or shout, the shrill cry of a woman. So that ominously points out towards some gray result or gray future. Okay, so I think this is clear. Now the last one is myth. Myth, comes from Greek word mythos, which means the story. So in your folk this culture also, you have certain things which are explained based on a particular story. So that becomes a kind of myth. We live with a lot of myths, right? For example, the most famous example is the Samudra Manthan, whereby these gods and demons they came together to extract that elixir, what do you call that, from the ocean. Okay, so when they started doing that, good as well as bad things they came out. out of it. And first came that halahal, that poison, which was consumed by Lord Shiva to save these people from death and destruction, and that is why it is named as Nilkant also. So there are a lot of myths doing the rounds, and we live with a lot of myths. Every culture has got its own myths. Like in Kullu, also like the Dashera festival, which is devoted to Shri Raghunath Ji. So there is a mythical story behind that. You know, some king, he had punished some Brahmin family unjustly. Okay, so in order to get salvation from that sin or that guilt, uh, he was advised by some people to bring an idol of Lord this Raghunathji, and that is how, and that is why even today the entire this Dashera is devoted to Lord Raghunath, and all deities and different deities which they come from various parts of Kullu Manali and to this particular festival. So, if you understood the meaning, then it is easy for you to write it down. Traditional stories that explain cultural values. Traditional stories that explain. That means why you are doing like this. Someone will tell you that yes, this is the reason behind this. This is the myth. Okay, and writers also use myths to give some symbolic depth. Like in your that wasteland, uh, T.S. Eliot uses a lot of myths. Okay, that myth of Sisyphus and all, how he connects the myth of River Ganga, sinking low because of evil deeds, increase in evil deeds on the land of India. So that is also used by T.S. Eliot. He is used in his poetry. Then, in everyday example, you have a family legend about a great grandparent's bravery. So you must also be listening to these things, like your father telling you about your great grandfather, how brave he was, or what greatness he had. So that becomes a kind of legend for you, and a kind of personal myth. Okay, so that is a personal myth, not a social or cultural myth. So this